Today's podcast is being shot all the way in Fiji. And the cool thing about Fiji is that you get to see blue sky, palm trees, blue water. Then so every now and then you find retired firemen, viral content creators. We just had a conversation. And I'm going to say that the two reasons why anybody should listen. Number one, if you're trying to figure out whether or not you should do content creation, then it's not just a yes or no. It's if you do or willing to do a certain thing. And the second thing that we talked about is the importance of the people you hang out with.
And the fact of it matters not just where you want to go, but who's supporting you and how you actually get somebody to believe in you, even if they don't. This is actually the foundational part that people just don't talk about. I feel is so pivotal for me. That's gained me over 1 million followers in 12 months.
Woo! So if you want to know how to go from where you are to 1 million plus followers, there's a lot of key pivotal things that he shared. It's in the podcast. I guarantee that you're going to find something of value. If you don't, unsubscribe. You can block me. I don't fucking care because I know that what he shared here is real. It happened very recently. That means that you can take those tips. It's going to work.
It's not some viral hooks that blew me up. It's going to fucking make you go the distance, baby. Woo!
All right, let's get into it. See you inside.
The Content Capitalist Podcast.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Content Capitalist Podcast. I'm on location here. This is like really fucking cool, but what you're going to see around here is it looks white. I'm going to show you some footage. We're going to touch that later. It's blue, blue, blue. We're in Fiji. And what's really cool about the event I'm at, which is called Black Belt and Boardroom, is that we go to cool locations, but even more important, we meet really cool people. This is somebody who's actually been on my feed for his viral videos. And as you know, I only bring people here who are making like $1 million or more. And content creation is a huge part of it. I get asked so many times, if I hire your agency, Ken, what's my ROI? And my answer is always, there's as many ways to make $1 million with content as there are people doing it. So let's just ask the people actually doing it. Tony, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me on board. Boom!
Boom. Ah! So the first time I was exposed to anything that had to do with him, you came across my feed, and there was this video where you're talking about, I think it was like extremely sarcastic, dissing other people's bad advice about workouts. And you were like lifting these big wooden log kind of looking weights and these bags of stones. It was hilarious. And that thing must have shot off because we have not connected like professionally or otherwise until I saw that. And now when I met you here, I made the connection. Oh, this is that dude who was doing all that goofy shit. Tell me an overview. What's your business and what kind of people do you help?
Right. Straightforward. I help pretty much, my idea is Gen Pop. So I help the general population with fitness. So I'm pretty much a fitness professional online coach. We also do scaling for fitness coaches. I help people with their own content, all that carry on. But an overview is pretty much, I tend to try and help. I don't like the word no. People who aren't as much into fitness or just in the first year or two to move forward and get more advanced. You know the way you always get them like newbie gains? Like you just go in, you lift the dumbbell and you get in shape. It's trying to get you past that frustration phase of when you get a better result and then you're like, why is it not working anymore? And I try and almost treat it like I'm dumbing the science down and making it fun to learn. Because personally, there's not a whole lot of fun in the teaching anymore. And I always imagine, do you remember them people in school, like the teachers, that you're like, he didn't teach a subject I liked, but I liked the teacher. And most people will relate to that. And it's like, that's the best memory you have of school is usually that one person. And that's sort of what I try and be to the audience. So I'm goofy, I'm funny, I'm up, I'm down, I'm sarcastic, because I'm like, that's how I learn best. Yeah. And there'll be a lot of people who are similar.
Okay. Got that. Now, you said two things. You said you coach people on their health and you help people to scale their businesses. How's that split? Like 50-50, 70-30? Like, currently, what's that look like?
I have business partners in everything but fitness. So then I can help with the marketing because I'm best at content. So I'm pretty much like a personal brand. And then I feed the businesses. So for example, me and Stephen run the coaches mentorship. So people come into my fitness world or they see me, they're a coach already. So they're already in shape. They just like the content. And then they see how I've scaled my business, my content. They come into the coaches mentorship. I've also got the content club launching next month. So you'll see people who want to do similar growth that I've had. So we help creators scale that following. And then with the fitness, I'm 100% in that. I have a business partner in the content club, Joseph Yip, and I do a bit of property as well. But it means my time is more so just, I'm just marketing. I'm a little bit of delivery, but I'm mainly focused on just lead gen and building my name that then feeds everything. Sort of like Hermosi, if anybody's seen that, you know, where you know him, you don't know school or acquisition, you know them, but it's him that's feeding them to an extent. It's sort of like that thought process.
So would you say you're building a brand around your personality, around your unique knowledge, your sense of humor, your adventure, and then whatever you do, people will automatically feel a connection to because they feel connected to you?
Bingo, exactly. Everything I do, I am involved with, but I like the analogy of, I think of people much bigger than me, like the Rock or Logan Paul, but like
Richard Branson.
Yeah, exactly.
Elon Musk.
Exactly. I've never relate myself to any of these people.
Well, my take on Elon is that, like, when he makes these ridiculously wild claims, people only invest in him because of his brand as making ridiculously wild claims come true. So that is his brand.
Yeah.
Therefore, his brand is like, if I say I'm going to put a man on Mars, then everybody's just like, probably not going to happen. However, we also thought that, electric cars becoming sexy was probably not going to happen. We also thought that rockets landing, was probably not going to happen. And he proved them wrong over and over. So I believe his brand is making the unbelievable possible. And he's created a brand, and people will continue as long as he keeps wowing people. And with you, your brand is cool. I'm going to drop a link down below to his Instagram. You tell me if it feels like this was like by design or just incidental. I feel like your brand is number one. You're super personable. You don't use big words, like making up these fancy terms for, a new way to do bicep curls. Like, I don't know what, the triple striation, blah, 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 right? Like, you don't do that shit. Number one. Number two, you take a serious thing and make it hilarious so that it's easier to remember and understand. And number three, you act like a frat boy. And people want to relive that memory of when they were a frat boy doing all the wild, cool shit and wearing the sunglasses, being on the beach, flexing every other day or every day. I don't know. Is that by design, or is that your personality like 24/7 even before you're ever on Instagram?
No, I really want to make this clear to people. I'm not that variation all the time. How you are with your wife versus with me versus the kids versus at work. These are all different, but that switches most people off and it doesn't help them. That's the way I like to learn. Yeah. That's not how most people like it. And the same you said about the frat boy, like I've always been a messer. I've never been like the cool kid in school. I've always been like that person where it's like, I'm goofy. I didn't really fit in. And I just sort of found that the more I lean into that, the more people relate to me. So it's completely me. It's like, if you're born, you're not born to everyone. You just assume that to yourself. When you share things about your life, like for example, people watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians, not because it's just Kim. They watch it because of the family, the way they go on, and they want to see the kitchen. They want to see everything in the person's life. Yeah. And as you said there, it's like when you build yourself and people see you for who you truly are, your good morals, your good values, you're a good person, they do want to see you do well. They're happy for you. And then when you're constantly giving back, I notice that I never have to ask. Like I've only done, I think, 3 call to actions. Like I've only ever asked for clients 3 times on my fitness page. It was when I launched things and I wasn't really an ask. It was more, this is going live. You're welcome to join. Because whenever I don't announce it, I get a lot of like, why didn't you tell me it's sold out? So that's the problem most people have in their business is getting the leads versus I'm like, they just come. But that's what I mean. So you've nailed me on the head with the how I break things down. Spot on. I appreciate that.
Would you say that if there was somebody who is either a mythical character or a real one that is kind of like your archetype, somebody like, I don't know, Jim Carrey or Mufasa, like sometimes there's these characters that stick with you and you're like, I kind of feel like that person.
Oh, I get what you mean. Like, I think a good thing for you to expand on for most people, because it takes me a second to comprehend, is archetype.
Yeah. So an archetype is like, I would say an exaggerated version or the future version of the character that you're playing. So I know there is something called authenticity where you should just be yourself. At the same time, we all have our aspirations and we have people who we look up to. If you're a businessman, a good chance in some way you're looking up to Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, because they're really successful. It doesn't mean you want to become them, but there are things that they've done and habits, characteristics that you can inherit. So by an archetype, that's a really simple way of explaining it.
It's a good way of explaining it. I didn't understand what it was, and I was like, please explain this. Yeah, for me, I'm like, I always try and stay, I don't like the word true, but stay, as you said, authentic to me. And then I just try and imagine, like, how would I like to act or be in a couple of years? And the thing is, naturally, as you are that individual and you show up and you deliver, you become it. It's not the work, it's who you become in the process. So for me, it's like, I am, like, everybody calls me the wolf online. That's a private family joke. And it just got out of hand. But I always think, like, I would always want to be confident in front of a crowd. So I just started filming in public. And I was like, we have a rule, me and Joseph, and it's like, he'll sometimes say to me, nervous score. And I'll be like, if it's above a 6, we film something on the spot because it's a rep. So a really good example is like, we were in Dubai Mall and he goes, nervous score. And I was like, sorry. And I was like, there's so many people. I was like, we're not allowed to film in here. He goes, nervous score. And I was like, 5, and he goes, bullshit. And I was like, yeah, it's more like a 9. And he was like, right, whipped out the camera, started filming me on the spot. And he was like, we'll just film just for reps. Yeah. So I'm standing by him all. The security guard comes straight over and he's like, you're not allowed to film in here. I was like, I've got a permit to film. And he was like, no problem. And I was like, oh my God, thank Jesus Christ. So we filmed it real, but then everything after that feels a lot less stressful. Yeah. It's like people who always film in their kitchen or their bedroom. Whenever they get out in public, it's a different game. And I always wanted to do YouTube long form vlogs at the time. So it's like, you only get there by doing it. Like you can do all the theory, all the practice, you can watch all these podcasts, but if you're in it, you learn by reps. It's like you analyze the bench press, you do it for hours. You're going to learn by going and benching too. So yeah, it's like, I wouldn't say an archetype, but I would try to be the best version of me. So like I'll do pre-film rituals and stuff. I treat it like, I don't like the word acting. I treat it like I'm showing up to be my best self. Like I need good energy. I need to make sure I've slept well. I need to make sure I'm caffeinated or I've had a cold shower so that when I come, I'm bringing the energy and I'm bringing my best self. Like there's no use me being on this podcast. I'll try and slow down for the...
No, the speed is fine because thing about podcasts is they could pause, rewind.
It's more my accent. I'm like, nobody is going to understand.
We'll put captions on it, guys. We're going to put captions. And by the way, I don't normally sound like this. I'm putting on an American accent. If I don't, like, long story, but I'm Japanese and normal accent like this is a Japanese accent. This is my country accent, but I can also act and pretend like I'm from the US by putting on an accent.
Man, I cannot believe that. If that camera pauses me, I was like, who is this man?
I'm honest, I did ham it up.
Yeah,
but no. I'm Japanese, born and raised there. But here's the thing. It's more cool when we bring on diverse cultures and accents. I want to pivot to something. I want to ask you a really straight question. Cool. Okay. You went from about 300,000 to 1.1 million followers on Instagram in a relatively short amount of time. What did that do for your business in terms of, well, fans obviously that's an ego thing. It's fun. It's a recognition thing. It's an authority thing. But let's talk about the other side, cash in the bank and the way your business operates. What changed?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give a quick dynamic for anybody that's under that follower. I don't want you to stress. I went 0 to 100K in a year. I then flatlined for a year straight. I actually lost followers. So if that's happening to you now, don't stress. I had to figure out where
Were you consistently producing the whole
every
time?
Day, every day. It was the hard. I did not enjoy that. I was losing followers every day, and then sort of
like
things
losing, but like net loss.
Yeah, like net loss. Like I went from 0 to 116K down to 108 over a year. Like a full year post, and I lost followers. So year 1, big gain. Year 2, massive loss, and then went straight from 109,000 to 1.1 million in 12 months. So it was a very big spike. It wasn't even a spike. It was just gradual progression, roughly about 100,000 per month, which now I count as a low gain a month from the way
Isn't it funny how we do that? Like our dream becomes garbage the moment we hit it.
Every time.
We do that, man.
I think it's like if you ever drive like a really nice car, if everybody gets a new car and you drive it for like a couple of weeks and then it's like, it's not new anymore.
It's just my daily driver. It's a people mover.
Yeah, like that's
and then that's why you got to go on Instagram and show it off because that's the next rush because your personal satisfaction is not enough. Now you need ego.
Yeah, right? Oh mate, I know. It's one of them things for me. It's like I like setting a longer term goal. The reason I went for 3 instead of 2 is because I was like I actually enjoyed the process of getting there, whereas I feel like a lot of people don't. Like I love I try and just have fun with the content. That's why I'll add props, I'll have guns, I'll have wigs, because for me I'm like if I have fun, it's enjoyable for other people. If anytime I've taken my content, like this needs to be right because I'm going to grow, it always goes worse. And then I get more frustrated. I end up in this like frustration, needs to be better, doesn't do well. And you just end up in this like cycle of like, oh, it's just melting.
And it sucks your energy out. So then you do worse because you feel worse. And then like.
Exactly. It's like the pressure choke. If you're like, I need to perform well. Whereas I rock up and I'm like, this just needs to be fun for me. My sister helps me film or my editor, my videographer. I'm like, this needs to be a good experience for everyone because we could all be dead in a couple of weeks. And I don't want to be like, I stressed over making some short form reels. So if you enjoy it, you'll also film more and then you get better. And then as you get better at something, what you'll notice is you then enjoy it more because you know you're good at it. So it is a bit of a weird thought process. Yeah. But in terms of cash in the bank.
Feel like when you flatline, you stopped enjoying it?
No, but you do feel a little bit more of a pressure on it. But the thing is, for me, I'm like, what always works? And I'm always like, I'll go back to the fun, go back to the enjoyment, go back to low pressure. And then I'm like, that's almost re-emphasized my brain. Whereas it wasn't whenever I got stuck for that year. I was like very frustrated. I was like I wouldn't say status. I would say a lot of my ego, my self-worth was in the fact it was growing because I got the initial spike and people were recognizing me. I was like, oh, Joe, I'm Tony Big Dick. And then I realized it wasn't that big and I was like put back in my place. But yeah, I'll even dive back. I just want to give a bit of context on that because I think sometimes people think like viral video. My following has just grown steadily. Like there's been no like one popper. Some do well. But yeah, from cash in the bank perspective, we pretty much have doubled revenue in most businesses I've had. With the mentorship, we do ads, we do stuff like that. And that's doubled year on year pretty much. So it's over 7 figures now easily. With my fitness business, it actually scaled to a point very quickly where I never asked for leads, but people were just, obviously it's the main thing the page is based around. And I went to a stage where I was like, this is like, I was running an app and it was just I remember launching in Mexico and I only had 450K.
Yeah.
And at that stage I'd gained 3 and I launched and I had to close it in 3 minutes. Like too many people came in. Like it was nearly.
So you have like,
I just done a launch.
What was the capacity? Like what was the limiting factors that you couldn't take more? Because that's a good problem to have. I think that there are people watching who are just like, dude, like rich people problems, best problem. Too many people trying to give me money, and I have to shut it down. Like,
said no to money.
Complaining that you had to say no to money when I'm not making anything.
So the one thing I'll give to anybody out there that's listening is the one thing that's more important than your content is your reputation. So I will never attach my name or sell someone that I don't believe in. So we took in like 700 people at like £99, which was pretty much like immediately within 3 minutes we done about 70K sterling. So GBP. So that's probably about 120 USD.
Something like
within
that.
3 minutes. So 120K USD.
And how many people pinged off? Like we're trying, but couldn't?
I just took down the site. I was like, the site doesn't work anymore. Cause I remember ringing the app and being
Oops, it broke.
I rang the app people and was like, take this fucking web page down. Cause I had deleted the links, but people were still signing up because they obviously had it saved or the email went out.
Somebody shared it or something.
So I was like, take this down. And they were like, no, the money's flowing in. And I was like, I don't care because the app works off itself.
Yeah.
But what I do for the first while is you join the group, the community, and I have a coach double check everything. So whenever, like I have coaches in there and I was like, oh, do you know, it'll do well. But then it got to a stage of like 700 in and I was like, oh shit. I was like, I don't have enough coaches for this. And I was like, this is going to be a scrambling fest.
Each person gets some type of personalized attention. And that's where the limiter was, right?
Yeah. Whereas you don't always need that in an app. But for me, I was like, how can mine be different? I always think like, I want people to come in and be like, I paid £99 sterling. And I was like, I got so much value out of this that whenever I resell or I keep them on and I'm always adding to it. So it's like, for me, that's what's going to keep you long term because I don't want to be in business and make a couple of million over 3-4 years. I want to be able to consistently put my name on something and not just fitness, mentorship, content, clothing, whatever I want. And I don't want people to be like, I had a bad experience with him on this. Everything else is worse. Because then when my name is mentioned in a conversation or somebody shares my content, it's not negatively correlated in any way. But yet, so my business has spiked in every direction. And the biggest thing for me was the fact it felt like I got a safety net under me.
Yeah.
Like, I can't explain the relief that gives me. Now I have quite a large property business as well. That gives me relief. I don't really spend much money. I just put it in there. Cause my life is very low. Like I don't really spend much. Like there's nothing on me. Like that's probably worth more than like £25. So like I don't spend money. It's not like a tight thing. It's just
protein, hair bleach.
Yeah. How do you know? Don't tell them it looks natural. Yeah, pretty much. But I don't spend, so I just pumped it into property. And I feel like the safety net is a really nice thing that allows me to relax and enjoy my content and enjoy my life.
So you're never like, you don't come across as hungry and desperate ever because this is not like, if you don't do it, then you're dead or you're broke.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? That's a really good position to come in from.
Yeah. Cause then
but how do you advise people who
don't
have that safety net and they're trying to make it on Instagram and like they're just like, my kids don't eat if I don't make a sale? And like, do you suggest they go get a day job and then do this on the side? Or Or do you have something else in mind? Because the reality is there's a lot of people like that.
You don't have the belief in yourself to be like, this will work if I keep knocking the door, if I keep slamming it. It was like that year where I was stuck at 100K and it would not move. Like it wouldn't move. I had people that were really close to me. I remember people being like, this isn't going to work, Tony. It's not working. Like you've done a year of it. The businesses have stalled because you're putting so much time into the content. And I just remember being like, you don't need to believe in me. I've got it. And they were like, people were calling me psychotic. I remember that word very clearly and it hurt me a lot. And it was one of the things where I was like, I feel like nobody believes in it now. Even though I got the first 100K, I was like, maybe they're right, maybe they're not. And this was like 9 months in and I had a really bad breakup after that and stuff like that. And I was like, I'm just going to obsess more, which maybe isn't the best thing. And then about 3 months after that, I felt like a penny drop and I was able to pivot my content slightly and it just went straight up. And I was like, the self-belief that then gives me to then push on to 3. That's why I'm so emotional about fitness, because I got that first win when I was like 18, getting myself in shape. I done everything wrong, but I worked so hard. Eventually, I chicken and broccoli myself into shape.
Yeah.
And in that self-belief of like, if I just stick at it and keep working and not just knock the same door, but refine, it will work. And then that for me is the hardest part whenever you're starting, because you don't have the self-belief unless you've had a win in another area.
Yeah.
That's what, for me. And if I do recommend for people, if you're starting off, like, start, as you said, I think that's a really good point. He said to me earlier over breakfast was start with what you have and just do it now. You don't need fancy anything. You're better just posting, because that will help. Reps help. So like you literally can take in between jobs, or if you're at home with the kids, record with the kids run about in the background, record it. Just, you're going to see fuck all for ages. But by that stage, hopefully you'll have been in too long to go, I'm going back now. I've gave it all up, and you just lean in more and more and more, and it always pays off. But the problem is, if you've not had success in another area of your life, like fitness or another business venture, or absolutely. So the way I actually originally built my business was I worked 50 hours in the fire service as a firefighter. And I done all this on the side at weekends, at nights. And for me, it was like when I had that business, or when I had that full-time job, and I'm not saying you have to do this. I had a girlfriend at the time. We were very serious. I had a family life. I had other things going on. Like I was into bodybuilding. I wanted to be a pro at the time. Don't want it anymore. And I just was like, I want this. So for me, I was like, I'm making the trade-off that my Saturday nights, my Friday nights, they're going to this. Yeah. And hopefully it returns. And the problem is when you start this, and if you're starting fresh, you're going to give a lot of time to this and you're not going to see a reward. Selfie video on your iPhone and talk from the heart about how you're going to try and help the person that's watching. If you go into every video trying to help somebody, it's not just about how fancy it edited or anything like that. You're coming out from a place like, I'm trying to help you. I'm giving up my time. The place is a mess, and people will connect with that. Like I've had a client and she scaled over like 1 million followers. Like we helped her with her business in like 2 years, and like her content is in the kitchen, and she's got 2 kids and the place is messy. She just like talks as she makes stuff, but it's so
relatable.
It's so
every single other mother who's doing that.
Exactly. So I think whenever you're you and you record and you're like, look, I don't have time to make content, but here is a quick tip on how to cope with X. And you're like, right, see you later, see you tomorrow. And they go on to the next thing. That's why Sam Sulek in the fitness world blew up. It was like camera.
He's just so chill.
So authentic. So just real. And I think the trend is when you've had so much polished, and there's that trend of where for years it was like, you have to be chiseled. You have to be really good. The content has to be, people are like, who do I relate to now? Because these don't feel like real people. And that's always what I come on. I talk about my mental health. I talk about relationships. I talk about fucking sex. And even though I don't really have experience, but, and it's like, I'm just being real from like, if you were talking to me as a friend, like what I can do, sometimes I'll just listen, I'll get feedback. And I feel like for anybody out there, if you go in with the idea of I'm trying to help people and you just post, you will help people and you will then build a marketplace for you. And you've highlighted to me, like you can have a massive following, but unless you're actually helping people, you're doing no use. You're entertainment, which is okay, but educate like is part and parcel. So I feel like that's probably the way I would do it.
Yeah. I want to build on what you said there, because the conversation we had earlier, because you guys weren't there, was that my philosophy when I bring clients on is they have to decide really early on if their social media is a performative account or a performing account. Performative means that you want as many views and followers from white middle-aged people who speak English, because sponsors pay a whole lot of money for that. Then you get brand deals and you get sponsorships, you get all kinds of good stuff. You can make a lot of money that way. Or a performing account is where ideally you want every single follower, every single engagement to become a sale and a customer and client, ideally. Now, the difference between those, and a lot of people do both, but everybody who's doing it really well has focused on just one, scaled it up, and then built the other one. So one thing you can do, even if you don't have what you believe is a sellable skill and you just want to go viral, be aware you're doing a performative account, and then you could teach the story about how you built that, and then that's where you build your performing leg of your account. But when you try to do both, there's this thing called learned helplessness. So your audience is just like, are you my friend? Are you trying to sell me something? Are you a guru? Like, there's this message confusion, and people just don't do anything, or they leave because they're confused. Like, are you trying to sell me something? Are you trying to give me something? Like, it's just confusing. So that's what we're talking about, and that's what I was trying to share.
Yeah, I think that one of the reasons I've managed to scale the following and still allow my businesses to actually thrive is because I don't have any sponsors yet. I've had a lot of money thrown at me. I have no problem taking money, don't worry. But a case of, I always think, like, when I see a sponsored athlete or brand, I'm like, I know they're paid for it. You know it. Everybody senses it. And you get so many posts a week. You get so many of this. Your platform becomes slightly diluted. So for me to do that, I have to, one, really believe in the product. So if you ever see me with something, like, I've had a lot of offers on the way up, and they get higher the more you go up. I feel like it dilutes you a little bit because you have deliverables. And then on top of that, your words slightly in people's eyes without
everything's filtered through. Like, what's the angle?
Well, usually straight away, like, it's like the first thing on like a supplement company, and they'll not admit this, is that they'll offer you a contract, and it'll be usually in most of the bios of it, you're not allowed to talk about performance enhancing drugs when you're a sponsored athlete of ours. That's why a lot of influencers won't speak about it. It's not just because they don't want to. Their livelihood actually depends on them not being like, I'm on fucking steroids. And you don't see stuff like this from the outside. And I think one thing I'd recommend is, if you even build, or even if you're not, it's not about views, as you said, always. Some of my posts are about views, but some of them I'm really keen on, like, connection. I feel like a lot of the viral creators are the people who build their audience. You don't know them. You don't know their struggles, their issues. People have this ego, whereas I tend to try and be like, I am a normal person. Like, when I go home to Ireland, yes, I have my own house, but I'm quite, like, bored in that house. So I go and live with my mom and dad. People are like, you're 30, living with your mom and dad. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not going to have them forever. And I'm like, and I enjoy them. So if your stereotype of me, or your thought process of me, changes because I'm enjoying time with my mom and dad, suck the back of my balls, because in 20 years, these are the memories I'm going to have. And then it's like, when I'm traveling, if I feel down, this or that, and I literally come on, I share it. If I'm emotional, if I'm high, if I'm low, I let people see issues, talk through things, share my life. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of viral accounts are very big accounts. You know them from behind the screen. Yeah. But you don't know them both ways. And I think that's why I convert so well, because there's like posts that grow you and then posts that connect you. Yeah. And I feel like that is a missing ingredient in a lot of people's content. Like, sounds odd, but like, if you put up all the stuff about content, people love that. But you put up a family photo, or you put up something and you talk about how you've done this or that. You were telling me earlier about everything going on. And I was like, I'm super engaged, because I'm like, people are everything to me. And most people relate to other people. And then you find that you actually relate to a certain type of individual. Like, anybody that went through a breakup in the last 2 years relates to me really well, because I was like, I had a 6-year relationship, it broke down, and I talk openly about it. And I was like, it actually helped motivate me to push further. It can make you or break you. Yeah. And then men watching that will always reach out to me, and it connects with a certain individual at that time point. Now, hopefully when I'm married with a few kids like yourself, people will still relate. Never know, ladies, keep your eyes peeled. But you get, it's like,
I get it. Yeah.
Certain person connects with you versus and they can't connect with me then.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I convert a very type man, or somebody who's looking fun, because they know I'm high energy. So they buy into you as a person rather than the brand. I think that always works for me personally.
Well, you are the brand. You are the niche. You are the market. If you decide to add personality and 360 degrees of reality to that. My question is, who was your inspiration and mentor, or like, whether in person or like, just from afar, who was the person who inspired you to go all in with social media, and you felt like, I can do this because that person did it?
My sister. So everything was down for me and I was struggling. I remember saying to her, this is my vision. This is where I want to go. But I was like, is that unrealistic? And the first thing she said to me was, that's the only place I see you going, and your only limiting factor is you. Because I was getting a lot of issues at the time. And as soon as I was like, if you can see that in me, and I feel like that's the right place to go, I just needed one person to almost give me it at the start, and then that gave me the momentum to go forward. So I wouldn't even say it's a mentor. For me, I was like, I have the work ethic. I know I can go there, but it's like, a lot of the time I'd always back myself. And then when somebody really close to you is like, and there's nobody that knows me better. There's not. And she was like, you can go the distance. And I was like, if you have faith in me, I'll go there. And in the same week, I hired her full time. I turned around there and was like, if you're willing to bet me, leave whatever minimum wage job you have, I will pay you, because that also lights a fire under my arse. because I was making good money, but I was like, I'd never hired a family member that their mortgage, their expenses, everything is on me. So I was like, I will not quit on you. I might try and quit myself, but I was like, now you are dependent on me. And when somebody means a lot to you as a person, it's like, I remember pushing through the 100K and I was like, I can't quit, because I quit, my business can go under in 5 years. That means she's like, and for me, that drove me then. So it's like, yes, you can learn everything, but it's like I hate saying this, but the fear of like, that I'm like, I will not go. So if you ever listen to Jordan Peterson, I'm a big fan of this. Yeah. Did you ever see the thing he talks about, like the rat with so they put a rat in a cage and they waft the smell of cheese in, and they have its tail attached to the back of the cage, and it pulls like, say, 6 out of 10 hard because it smells the cheese. It wants the cheese. I wanted the million followers really badly. But then what they do is they waft the smell of cheese in through the front, and they waft the smell of a cat in through the back. And what they found was the rat ran like a 9 out of 10 strength, because it's running to something, but it's also running the fuck away from something. That's why you'll usually notice a lot of people like me do extremely well at the start, because I'm fueled by insecurity. And then see, once I started to solve them issues, I was like, I need a driving factor that I don't want to let down. Now, some people will say that's unhealthy and a bit unstable, and it very well is. It's not balanced. I don't believe in balance if you're going as fast as I was then. But that was the main thing that drove me. I did learn off other people. Like I've learned off podcasts. I've seen Devin. I've seen Sean Casey. I've seen everybody in the content world. Like I've watched and consumed everything. But the one thing I want to highlight is one person does not have all the secrets you need. There's no such thing as the secrets. They're one golden nugget. You go try, you test, you tweak, you refine. And for me, it's like, even Joseph Yip, my editor, my videographer, my content club, we just sit and you just learn and you're just talking through it. Even this conversation, I'm learning. It's just the more you consume about it, the smarter you get. And then you start to say stuff to people and they're like, fuck, I never thought about that. And that's now your lower level because you're consuming so much. So it's just like fitness. You're not going to get all from like Jeff Nippard or Mike Israel. You're going to take pieces and make your own. Yeah. That's why I don't believe in like one guru. Yeah. Just like you, I'm learning off you. You
don't have their same body, their same diet, their same schedule. Like, how can you expect to do everything they did?
Yeah.
You're going to create what works for you.
Yeah, and I don't know whether that's the answer you essentially look, but if I looked at the most pivotal role...
What I'm taking away from this here is I think anybody who's got a family member who believed in you like your sister believed in you, that is so powerful. Most people who say, I want to go all in with social media and become, famous and rich, they're going to look at you like, go get a job. You're an idiot. Your sister believing in you and being willing to risk her livelihood and peg it on your success. There's not so many people who have that type of support. Let's just turn back the clock. If she said, that sounds like a shit idea, and you're an idiot if you do that, what would be different right now about you? Do you think you would have still done it, but later? Or do you think you would have given up?
Really good example. I had a similar conversation probably 2 years prior with the same individual, my sister. And this is for anybody listening, because this will really get very, very in depth. You have to show that you can win before people believe in you. They will never. So I showed that I had built my physique up. I was very dedicated to anything I'd done. So then, like, I haven't missed a training session in like 11 years. So like, if I say I'm going to do something, my word is everything. So you have to give the people a reason to have faith. If you're the sort of individual and you're like, I'm going to start social media, and you tell people, don't tell them, show them. So I had already done reps in other areas. So I had built a business. I remember saying, I'm going to join the fire service when I applied. 10,000 people applied. I got in the first 23.
That sounds like a highly coveted position.
Yeah, it was. At the time in Northern Ireland, it would be very difficult to get in the fire service. If anybody's been through the process, it's quite taxing. Most people wouldn't say it.
It's like the Navy SEALs of civilians.
I wish. That's making me sound hardcore.
I mean, think about it. Navy SEALs of the military. Yeah. Navy SEALs of civilian. Is there a harder, like, physical service type of industry? We went off the track.
Yeah, but
if there's 10,000 people apply, that sounds like the Navy SEALs of civilian service.
Yeah, and there's only 2 million in Northern Ireland, so it's quite like a small. And I remember saying, I'm going to get the job. Like, I'm going to get it. And then I applied and I came top 23. So I got in the first batch hard. So there had been multiple times in my life, but I didn't do it by fluke. Like, I remember going into the interview and then there's 23 of us in the classroom. And I was like, how long did you study for? And people were like, I didn't really study. I knew somebody or this. Like, I studied every night. I was reading the website, reading everything. Even though there's no real way to study to get a job, I was like going down to the fire station, knocking the door and going, what do I need to know? And they'd be like, we're not telling you, go to a different fire station, knock the door. Like, I would be relentless to the point of where people would say it's too much, but I'm like, it gives me a lot of confidence then, because I'm like, there's no way you've done as many hours and put in as much effort as me into this. So then it builds your own self-belief. So whenever I'd done that in the firefighting, I'd done it with lifeguard before that, but I done it with my fitness business because I had no followers, but I managed to build it up. Like, I would literally go to different gyms and sit for hours or walk around the treadmills and just have conversations, because the more people that knew me, the more people trusted me. And then I got in good shape and the business built. So then she was like, no, I've seen it. Anything you stick your mind to, you've done. Whereas initially, see, when I started all that, and I wasn't in shape. I wasn't in the fire service, and I said, I'm going to this level of shape. People are like, yeah, sure.
Dude, I'm getting chills.
Yeah, sure. But then for me, I was like, I need to stick with it. It took me about a year. It took me ages to get in shape, mate. It took me about 18 months. Like, I was in my garage doing like an hour of abs, like the most stupid shit ever. But the thing is, an hour of abs must have burned enough calories that I leaned out. So eventually I got in okay shape. And then it was like this. And then the next thing was the fire service. And I remember saying to my ones, I'm going to start buying houses for property. They were like, you only make 20,000 starting a year. Like, a house is so much that. And I was like, I'll get a second job. So then I'd bought a house within 12 months. And at that stage then, people were like, you're not for them 3 or 4 things. And by that stage, it was a case of whenever I told people what I'm going to do, they were like, oh, fuck, this is happening then. So you build the faith by doing one thing and holding your word. When you hold your word to yourself and to others constantly, it's not they know you're so full in that they might not even believe it fully works, but they believe in you enough that they're like, well, fuck, this is what we're doing now, I guess. So if you don't have somebody that believes in you, firstly, give them something to believe in. Show them the proof. Because if you walk up to you now and go, I'm going to have 1 million followers in 12 months, and they're at 0, but in 12 months,
they've never done it before either, you know?
Yeah, you've no proof. So
which is why fitness instructors need to actually have some abs and biceps. Like, you don't get an overweight person who is really out of shape to pay you to do it, unless they were and they know the technique, right? They have to have done it.
Yeah, so I don't know if that answers that.
Story. I got chills because it reminded me of something. Do you see it?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
And this is because I've got kids, right? My son, when he was 8 years old, he was in school. They asked, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? He said, I want to be a YouTuber. And I thought, oh, that's cute. And then the teacher's report comes and it's like, cute. Also, maybe you should think about a career, right? But then I thought that's really cool. So I, being a guy who, does video stuff, I set him up with a webcam and a little mic and showed him how to get on streaming and stuff. And he made a few game recordings, as a gamer. It didn't really go anywhere, but he understood the mechanics of how to hook it all up and stuff. And then after a few months, he quit. And I thought, well, he's only 8. Don't expect too much, but he gave it a shot.
That's still pretty good.
Now he just turned 18. So this is 10 years later. And he didn't make any videos or stream forever, but he was gaming all the time, And I just thought, well, that's teenagers, what they do. And, some of my parents would get upset. I was like, no, it's cool. He's keeping up with everything else he should be doing. And 7 months ago, to this day, 7 months ago, he got on Twitch and started streaming a game. And on his first stream, he had a couple hundred followers watching live. Second one, 300. And every single one, it kept compounding. And on Twitch, what happens is you have to wait 2 weeks of actual streaming before you can monetize. When the monetization turned on, he was making more money than the average middle management salary in Japan for a full-grown male. And I talked to him and I said, dude, that is so successful. I looked up the stats and like, you are like, nobody gets that big that fast, right? And every single month it's compounding. And now he's talking about moving out because now he could afford his own house and everything, right?
That's awesome.
And when I asked him, like, why do you think you, in your very first stream, just went really well? And he goes, Dad, the last 3 years, I've been playing the same game. It's called Dark and Darker, in case you're wondering. And he goes, I found a small niche game. It's not the ones that the biggest streamers are doing. It's one that's really fun and it's growing, but there's not a ton of users. It took me 3 years to get to the world's leaderboard #1 position. Now that I'm a #1 position, every time I stream, I say, and on the title and with a screenshot, watch the world's #1 leaderboard position play Dark and Darker. And people come in, they want to learn the game, right? And then the game actually reached out to him, the game developers. They're just like, hey, and I can't really give too much details about that. But what's going on is that he, at the young age of 8, realized I can keep streaming like this and just be having fun and shooting the breeze. Some people might come, some people might not. But if I have a position of credibility that I can prove that I am the best in the world at this one thing. Maybe it's not going to be like Fortnite where there's a zillion users, right? But something, then people will actually pay attention. He spent 3 years doing that and then launched. And I think too many people are like what you said. They believe that just by acting cute and copying some influencer online that they're going to go viral. They might, but then what happens is if they don't have a real accomplishment, something they can say, I did this and I know how to do this and I'm the world's best at this, then their confidence is all just fake it till you make it kind of confidence. Their confidence is also just going to be dwindling where they feel they have to compensate and compromise values, such as like trying to look like really erotic all the time, right? Or doing pranks that are, morally, ambiguous, right? Or doing all these things that just come to the line of like, you're not sticking to your core anymore. And then that gets addictive because it does work. But then it's kind of like Fast and Furious. Every single one has to outdo the next. And then how the fuck far are you going to go, right? Until it gets ridiculous. And then you just become a puppet of the algorithm and you just have to play their game if you want to, because you don't have anything that you actually accomplish that you fall back to. That's your roots. That's your feet planted in the ground that you could say, dude, I will take down anybody and I will discuss this point because I know who the fuck I am and I know how good I am and I can prove it. They don't have that.
Definitely.
All I have the cute face and G-strings. That's it, right?
I wish I had a cute face and G-strings. Like.
You do have G-strings. Don't lie.
He's seen them. He knows me. Do you know what? I love the fact about that with your son because I think it reiterates the point of like, there's no such thing as an overnight success. It can always look it because you'll see one thing and you'll be like, they just got it right. But it's the skills. It's actually the person that's built underneath. Even if you see a video go off, the person had the knowledge, the mindset or the energy or the thought process from prior experiences. And even if they pop off within 6 months, to use that experience to then build them faster. It's just like anything. It's always that it looks like it happens so quick. And I get that all the time. I get people going, you grew so fast. I'm like, but I've been posting content for 7 years.
Yeah.
I'm like, it wasn't an overnight. I only got good on like year 5. I'm like, oh, it was so frustrating. So it's like,
Same with fitness.
I love that point. Yeah, exactly. I love that point. There's only so many things you're ever going to be able to be a master of. And if you ever make a commitment to content, it's not like a 6-month game. I think a lot of people fall down there. I think you need to treat it like this is now part of my life or my business. This is just like my training. This is just like my dad. I have to eat some of this up. And whenever it comes in, someone else needs to go out. That's why I was saying if I get a business owner approach me and it's not for them, I'm like, don't you consume it. Give it to the person who they're going to use it because they enjoy it, they like it, they want it. Whereas if you don't want it part of your life, you don't have to have it. Somebody else can do it. But no, I do. I really rate that about your son. I'm glad you got goosebumps too. I think that's a big show. What's his like tag? Do you know it?
He doesn't want to be outed
does
as
he not?
My son. I respect that. He's just like, Dad, as I'm winning, I want it to be on my own credits. And he's already a bigger deal within his community than I am in mine in terms of like, not in terms of revenue, but in terms of like how many people are tuning into his online stuff.
Good. Well, big love. Don't you be coming near fitness because you'll take my spot. Like, I'm not okay. Well, like he's got too much work.
So that was question number 1.
Yeah. Sorry. That was low.
No. I love it. Question number 2 is what was the pivot point that started changing from slowly declining, like the Japanese population, to booming, like the Indian population?
Oh, manic. So yeah, you're being very straightforward about it. For me, the main thing that pivoted and changed me massively was the fact that I always use this analogy of what I'd done to get to 100K is what I thought would take me further, right? And I always use the analogy of I was hammering the same nail into the same wall with the same hammer. It went halfway in. And I was like, if I keep using the same hammer, the same nail, it'll go fully in. I was hammering into, all I needed to do was either change the nail, change the wall, change the hammer. So what I did was I just started tweaking. I started adding more personality, a bit more humor. I stopped teaching as much seriousness. And then I started refining videos and learn the game of content better. Like I always thought, if I just keep doing reps, it'll get better and I'll learn as I go. But what I done was I started treating it like I study. I do an ideation session. So I just think of ideas for an hour and a half. Then I script for 2 hours on a separate day. And then I film and I took it like a pro athlete.
So ideation is one session.
One session of thinking.
That's like
just
long?
ideas. 1-2 hours.
Okay. And
I do the first 4 hours of every day is not focused on content. First 4 hours of every day.
Okay.
But yeah,
every day.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, that today?
Yeah, to be honest, last week we've been in Fiji. Like, I've been too focused on the CM.
4 hours?
Yeah, so
that's commitment, guys. That's commitment. A lot of people think, like, let's Google some ChatGPT. What are some awesome hooks?
So I'll get up in the morning, I'll do my morning routine that everybody will hate, and then I go to the gym. But the gym for me is content, because the whole time I'm there, my thought process is, what is people doing? What are they doing? What am I doing? What's the problems in there? So I treat that like my ideation. I'll be noting ideas down as I train. Immediately when I'm done training, that's when I film, because I'm the highest energy, because I'm psyched. I'm never like, see, after I train, I feel like I can take on the world, like, and I'm most high energy. And I will film immediately there, say from 7:30 in the morning to maybe 9:30, 10. That's the first 3. The scripts will have been on the night or the morning prior from not training. So on my rest days, I do my scripts. Ideas and filming in the gym, then 4 or 5 days a week. Scripting is done on my rest days. It's pure periodic. And then the way I work it is, whenever I'm done filming, I will go home immediately and, like, almost like a feedback loop, watch last week's videos and be like, what didn't I like about my performance? Not just the scripting, how I'm coming across. Is it too vulgar? Is there too many mom jokes? Is there enough humor? Is there too much? Can I actually understand the point? Is this too dopamine driven? And I'll review it and I'll just reflect on it and be like, is this good? And for me, it's like that constant process of feedback. And because I'm posting so much, like, I post roughly 14 times on my personal Instagram short form per week. I post 3 on my Train by Tony page, 3 on the Coach's Mentorship page. I'm going to be posting so I'm getting such a quick feedback loop of, like, what's doing well, that I'm learning faster. And then, as you said there, I treated the entire thing like this is like the full-time gig. Everything else is not my job now. Content is my job. So, like, I would have the same ritual for, like, waking up in terms of, like, if I'm going on camera, I'll always have a cup of coffee or I'll get a cold shower. You'll always see me, like, I'll do something embarrassing before I start filming, so I'm looser. So really good example is, like, if I'm in a supermarket and we're filming, I'll grab the condoms. I'll be like, hello everyone.
On camera though? Or just do your internal mental thing?
Both. He'll film it for, like, just a warm up, but we never use it. We might throw it in the odd time, but the thing is, everything that I film in that area when it's public is way less. Like, if I have to do a cartwheel or I have to just walk around, if everybody sees my content, it's a bit rogue. But it brings me down to, like, well, I've done the worst thing first, and it's almost like a pre-film warm-up. So like, I always highlight, like, The Rock doesn't just roll into Jumanji, have one line going, don't worry, I've got the rest of the film. You just hit the camera. He's also read line to line. He probably does a warm-up. He does
You mentioned earlier that there was something that really pivoted, and there was something you did that went from plateauing, declining, to going up. If you could kind of condense that into something that someone's going to remember after this is over and be able to just, like, tattoo it to their chest if they need to, what would that be?
If you want to win at content, stop treating it like a part-time job and treat it like it's a full-time job. Like, imagine you're a professional athlete, but your job's content. Live it, breathe it, focus on it, and you will just gain monumental success. So if you're starting off, just treat content like you're a pro athlete. Live it, breathe it, do everything around it, and you'll notice you'll start surpassing others without even realizing it. Because when you spend more time on the game of content, you learn it better, you act better in your content, you show up with better energy, and you start to figure it out by yourself over time, just like if you done it with fitness or anything. That for me is like condensed it. For me, I just went, I need to go all in, because other people are all in, and I know the only way somebody else beats me is by spending more time on it. And I think that's
out creating, outperforming, outworking, everything, out producing, out publishing.
If you want to grow as fast as me, I don't know anybody else that's grown probably as fast in my space in as short a time period. And that is the one pivotal point. You can talk about negative hooks or special answers and viral videos, but I'm like, you'll know how it works. And it's not a hard work thing. It's work on every area. It's just like, I'll spend time editing, I'll spend time drafting, I'll hire more staff. I'm willing to bet more on it.
Bet on yourself, because you know that you have that rock solid foundation that no matter what happens, like, the foundation is solid, so you can just build it again.
Yeah, like if you're spending 4 hours a week on content, just bump the numbers to 8 and give it 6 months and be like, fuck, I'm moving fast.
I'm not doing that much, so I think that's what I need to do. Put more of my mental energy
capacity
on creative ways to bring myself up to where I need to be. Last question here is, there's going to be somebody watching. It might be you, it might be your brother or sister or your mom or dad, or maybe it's the future version of yourself. But that person who's watching right now knows they need to get into content. They've got a value to give, but something's holding them back. Maybe they think that my face is not for camera. I don't have the $1 billion yacht. I don't have the Lambo. I don't have the Brazilian bikini butt, but they haven't started. What would you say to that person?
Don't think what could go wrong. Think what could go right. That's the most important thing. it will go beyond your wildest dreams. I never thought I could go that far. When I first done my first video, like I never thought it could go as far as it has. And the amount it's not just changed my life, it's changed my family's, and it's even changed where I'm going now, my thought process, how I feel. I never thought I'd get to here. And just ask yourself, imagine it went better than you could even dream, because that's what's happened to me, and it's only been going all in. And the only other touch point is, what's it costing you by not doing it?
That hit me. Again, little goosebumps.
Goosebumps.
Little ones.
I like that.
All right. Let's wrap this up, guys. Thank you so much for listening all the way to the end. This guy's super cool. Check out his tag down below. What's your Instagram tag again?
It's just at Tony McAleavy. You're going to have to put it below. Nobody can spell that.
But there's a good chance you've already seen him on your feeds if you're into anything to do with fitness or entrepreneurship, because his stuff does get shared. It goes everywhere. Also, when it comes to creating content, especially organic on Reels, I suggest you follow this guy. Go check out what actually he's doing, not just what he's showing, but what is the purpose? Is he driving people to a certain psychology, mentality, to want to improve themselves, feel good about themselves? Is he doing it to connect? Is he doing it to show what's possible? Is he doing it to be outrageous? Everything has an intention. A lot of people think you just wake up one day and you're just like, I'm going to go viral. It's not like that. Everything is intentional. So if you're at that level where you're not just there consuming, but you also want to create, watch content as if you are stealing a playbook, and everything's going to swish. It's going to go from doom scrolling to learn scrolling. And that's when stuff changes. That's it, guys. Thanks for sticking around all the way to the end. I will see you again next week.
No hustle, worship here, we're a different breed. Action is what we got if action is what you need. Content capitalists, we're breaking the mold, cause the old ways fading, new stories to be told. So content capitalists, get to the prize.